Live Forever Young Radio. I am Raleigh Culp. This is Bob Gilpatrick. Bob, how's it going?
Good, Raleigh. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Getting ready to do another awesome show.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. We're talking about some really important stuff, some information that we've gotten, and some really cool stuff about muscle wasting. So we know that muscles are really important. We tend to open up the show sometime talking about sports, but not just for athletes, but for people that are older. As we age, we tend to lose muscle. And Bob has some stats on that so we can get an idea of how real this is. So if you want to tell them about it.
You know, Raleigh, this has become even more important since COVID started in 2020.
Good point.
So we have a customer who during COVID was hospitalized and was on a ventilator for 2 months. Mm-hmm. Now, there's something about ventilators that when you're on a ventilator, you start to lose muscle very quickly. Mm-hmm. And he lost half his body weight. Mm. He lost 100 pounds.
Of basically muscle.
Of muscle while he was on that, right? And so once they took him off the ventilator, he'd lived, praise be to God. And he went through a lot of rehab, and we were able to get him the Gladiator barley at his rehab center, and he was able to take it. And he's gained back almost all of his muscle weight now. But that's happened to a lot of people that got COVID or have had other issues. I just heard a story about a woman who fell and had a brain injury and had to have surgery. And they had to keep her in a coma for a month and lost all this muscle weight.
Sure.
And when she came out, she didn't feel like eating, and she lost even more muscle weight. And now we're going to get her started on the Gladiator barley. Thank goodness. And this is a huge problem because when people age, that's one of the things that we see in almost everyone is they start to lose muscle weight.
Yeah.
And it's weird. It starts when you're in your mid-30s, sometimes younger, and it starts to get worse as you go.
I think it gets, especially as you get older, it actually goes more rapidly.
Yeah. And so by the time you are 50 years old, you've lost 10% of your muscle. Oof. And each decade thereafter, you lose 15%. And when you hit 75 years old, something occurs where you start to lose even faster.
It's funny that you brought that up because I was thinking of my Aunt Jean. I speak about her all the time. I noticed, and I was looking at pictures from the baby shower when my daughter was born. And my Aunt Jean was right about 73, right around then. And she was you could see in the pictures, she didn't look heavy. She just looked thicker, like more muscles. And then you see her today, not that she's emaciated, but you can tell that in this, my daughter's 12, first day of school today, 7th grade, Alana. So 12 years go by and you don't really notice it because you see them often, you stop by and you see them. And it's kind of like a slower, gradual thing that you see. But in the amount of time, it was kind of shocking to see how much she's thinner now and how much muscle she doesn't have. Right. So that 75 is, I think, a key thing.
And you brought her some Gladiator barley.
I actually did.
Excellent. The other thing that happens is your stem cells that you produce drop off as we age. And so there's stem cells that morph into muscle cells, and we make less of those as we age.
Right.
And even the ones we do make, there's a copper peptide that's in those stem cells that makes the new muscle cell act young. But as we age, we make less of that copper peptide. And so there's a multitude of things that we have going against us as we age. And as your muscles age, you become highly susceptible to becoming overweight.
Right.
Because you have a lot of fat burning enzymes in your muscle. Your metabolism slows down when you have less muscle. Your insulin sensitivity doesn't work quite as well, so you have a harder time burning sugar for energy, and then it gets converted to fat. And now you have weaker muscles carrying around more fat, right?
That doesn't sound like a good
Your
combination.
immune system doesn't function as well. your energy levels drop off, your mood will change, and you become highly susceptible to injury.
Yes.
To falling.
Yes.
Spraining something, tearing something, and this is the reason why they say the median maximum lifespan is 85. So what that means is if you never get sick, you're going to die at age 85 anyway, from what they say is old age. But if we can slow down that muscle wasting, you won't hit that ceiling at 85. Right? Because between 75, when it accelerates, and 85, boom, you're just too frail, too sick to live anymore. But with extra muscle on, you can blow through that 85. Like today is Jim Lee's birthday, who is 87 today.
Right.
And he doesn't look to me like he's lost any muscle weight.
No.
Jim is strong. And he's
actually a hunter still. He hunts
and
still.
He's still up and about.
He goes out on his boat.
And he works for us.
Yep.
And then he's got plenty of energy at the end of the day of work to
Him
still
and his
do other
wife.
things. Exactly. And Gene, on the 14th, is going to turn 86.
Yep.
And Gene, they call him the dancing machine. He works full time all day long and goes out dancing at nighttime. But it's been probably 6 or 7 years that they've been using the Gladiator barley.
Yeah, at least.
Yep.
At least. I'd say, I think it's a little longer. We lose track of time here. But
Could be.
we like we say middle age here is like 84 years old, right? Because
85. Middle age begins at 85.
There you go.
And where most people are at the end of their life at 85, okay? At Boomers Forever Young, that's when middle age begins.
I like it.
Right.
I like it.
So, very important that people know about this and they know what to do about it.
Right? Well, that's what I was going to say. I said we've gone over all the doom and gloom of what happens without muscles, but how do we prevent it? What are the steps we can do naturally? What are some good things we can rely on supplement-wise? We know our Gladiator barley amino acids are key. Also, too, one of the things, just real quick before we skip over to that, what we can do, I was thinking collagen also gets created less as you age. So that helps with the connective tissue as well. So collagen, all these things stop being created. What do we do about it?
Yeah, so collagen is a protein.
Right.
And we get a lot of really great testimonials from older people that start taking collagen and all kinds of things that you wouldn't even expect. So the first thing, of course, is their hair and their skin and their nails start to improve. But in addition, we get a lot of testimonials where people's digestion is better.
That was surprising. I agree. That was one of the things that, I mean, it makes sense. But you don't think about it until someone calls and says, by the way, not only are my nails and my hair and my skin looking great, but my belly's feeling better too.
Yeah. And so digestion is a really big part of maintaining muscle because people will take in protein.
Yep.
Protein shakes, they'll eat meat, whatever it is, vegan sources of protein, peas and beans and that type of thing. And as you take it in, your body has to digest it. You have to break that protein down into its smaller components, to amino acids. Then it gets reassembled into human proteins, right, from your genetic code and the production of amino acids, some of which you can make, some of which you have to digest the protein you took in to make them, or ingest the essential amino acids that you can't make.
Right.
And then you have to have metabolic enzymes that act as the glue to assemble the protein.
Put them together.
And this is how you make muscle.
Right. It's a whole process.
So digestion is key. So digestive enzymes. The older you get, the less digestive enzymes you produce from your pancreas and in your stomach. But now you can take really good digestive enzymes, which will actually help you build muscle.
Right. And that's because you're digesting more thoroughly. Like you could eat a bunch of stuff, but if you're not able to absorb the nutrients, and you could take all the supplements, but if you can't absorb and get as much out of it, then it's not going to do what you think it will do.
The absorption is the next step after you're able to actually digest your food. The absorption is critical.
Right.
And this is where the gladiator barley helps, because it has a compound in the powder that will cleanse the villi that absorb the nutrients in your small intestine.
Correct.
And so once they have the plaque cleansed off of them, which develops as you age, and it regrows the little villi, now you can absorb all those amino acids that have been digested in the stomach or ingested, because there's amino acids in the barley. Now you can actually absorb it into your bloodstream, where it then travels to the cells, and now you have the fuel that you need in order to make the muscle.
Right. Now, the thing that I was going to ask, or just kind of mention about when you're talking about amino acids versus regular protein, is something that we talk a lot about, because in the barley that we have is actually amino acids.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you look at what it says protein content wise, it doesn't say much, but that's because what's in there is the amino acids, and the amino acids are actually, when you take in amino acids, that doesn't have to go through the step of breaking down the protein form that it comes in as. So you kind of get to skip that step, which can help to quicker muscle building as well, right? You skip that step, and then aminos.
And those amino acids are made from protein that are part of the seed.
Correct.
And when the seed sprouts, a digestion process occurs that renders those proteins into amino acids. That doesn't render all of it. There's a little bit of protein left over. The amino acids are rendered because they are about to reassemble in a different way to make a blade of grass.
Right, but we get to it before the grass starts to be created, so we kind of get those aminos that we're going to be used for that.
And they're the same ones that humans need.
Exactly.
And that's why people can get protein and a lot of nourishment from plants, because they're similar to the human genetic code when it comes to nourishment like that.
Yeah, a lot of vegans and vegetarians, they have a hard time getting protein, but it's about getting the right kind of protein and getting it from a source that has, aminos and things that can actually be reassembled.
Yeah. The other thing is, once you have the digestion, the absorption, then the next step is the genetic expression.
Right.
Because you can't just simply make proteins by magic once the amino acids and enzymes are in the cell.
No.
Because the proteins are extremely complex, and there has to be information for how they're assembled.
Gotcha.
And that's in your genetic code. So your genes are in your DNA, it says double helix, and it's wrapped up in a protective sheath.
Correct.
And that sheath gets pinged by different things like vitamin D3, and it opens up a window so a copy can be made of that gene set by the RNA, comes out into the cell, and now the RNA can call for the right amino acids, the right metabolic enzymes, and say, assemble it in this way, and you get these beautiful, elaborate proteins that are infused with minerals that helps them to fold and open and close and actually move. Moving proteins is what the biological aspect of human life really is.
Okay.
And so you have to also be sure your vitamin D level is okay.
Right. When we talk a lot about vitamin D, because you can't get it from anywhere but the sun and diet, right? So you need to make sure that if you're not out in the sun a lot and you're not feeling good, specifically with energy, you get your level Ds checked and then take a supplement for them.
Yeah.
Many people don't get enough sun.
That's right. Almost no one does.
Exactly.
Almost no one does. So once this genetic expression occurs and the information is there, then you can assemble those proteins, which are the building blocks of muscle.
Right.
And so you have to pay attention to the entirety of the muscle synthesis metabolic pathway, which goes all the way to your mouth. Because when you're chewing your food, you begin to digest it and break it down. And that breakdown is what provides the fuel to ultimately create muscle. Right. And then the exercise part.
I was just going to say, and then moving it or losing it is what I like to call it. You literally read my mind. I was going to say, it's great. Now we're building muscle and say, we're taking in all this good amino. What do? We got to keep it up, right? We got to maintain the muscle by moving. whether it's a light workout or a heavy workout, depending on what kind of muscle you want to build, right? You could do a heavy workout, build a lot of muscle mass. You could do a lighter workout and keep more lean muscle, right? And when we talk about lean and heavy muscle mass, the barley that we have, the Gladiator, is great to put on more muscle mass because it's got more aminos. The heirloom is actually great if you want to put on a little bit more leaner muscle but not get too bulky because it's got a little bit less of the amino content, right?
The other concept with muscle building is you do have to have resistance. So you can't just do walking and think you're going to build enough muscle.
Absolutely.
You need either weights, you need your body weight, meaning push-ups, pull-ups, that type of thing.
What about those resistance bands?
And that's the other one. The resistance bands work well. The key to it is progressive resistance without hurting yourself.
Right. Don't overdo it.
So the resistance bands come in different colors.
Just to do.
Based on how hard they are to stretch.
Right.
So you start with the lightest one, the white color, whatever it is, and you do your exercise. And you build up so you can do more with that same weight. And then once you get to where you can do 10 or 12 repetitions, whether you're doing chest workout, shoulder workout, whatever it is, then you increase the tension.
Gotcha.
So you can either move to the next color of band, or if you only have one color, you can shorten the band.
Okay.
So if you're holding on the band on this end and with this hand, you're pushing the band, grab the band up higher, it shortens it and makes it harder to
more
push.
Resistance.
More resistance. The key is to keep slowly but progressively increasing the resistance. And that is what builds muscle because your muscles will respond to the workload.
Right.
And if you increase, your muscles go, okay, this increase thing, I better start building some muscle because we're going to keep increasing.
Exactly. And that your body will signal it because it'll get into the habit of the progressive resistance, and the body will start to build more muscle to help with it as you go. So it's not going from 0 to 100 because then you tear your muscles up. You tear your muscles up.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to get hurt because then you have to rest up and start over again and you lose all that muscle weight that you worked hard for. So that's the key thing is little small incremental increases over time, over the course of 6 months, a year. You will definitely build new muscle. If you're taking the Gladiator barley, you will definitely gain muscle weight.
Well, the resistance I know works because we had 2 MMA fighters actually that we sponsored about a year ago. One ended up winning the UAE championship, Jesse Arnett.
Yeah.
And when they were they still used the product, but when they started using it, they noticed that they were able to increase their weights quicker than normal, probably because their muscles were in better shape than the average person, right? But they did notice, and one of them actually overdid it at first because he felt real strong, and so he started jumping, and then I talked to him, and I said, do the slow progression of it. And not only did it help with the muscle strength, but it helped with the endurance, they said. They could work out longer and more times in a day because 2 things, I think. The muscle, right? But the recovery time from the antioxidants in the product is what really helped to reduce inflammation and lower their recovery time, the amount of time they needed to recover. And that was something that they said they noticed quite a bit after workouts, is that they felt not as worn out the next day, like they could actually maybe do another one, So there's a lot that has to do, especially with muscle recovery, in getting the right amount of aminos. And it's very important when you get older and you start to progressively lose these things to gain them back.
Yeah. The issue of the falls can't be underestimated. When you have a person who is 65 years old, if they fall and break their hip from 65 on, there's a very high chance that you're going to die within the next year. So you don't want to fall and break your hip. People that fall and break their hips are people who have become weak and their balance is off. So when you start to get weak and you don't feel like moving around very much, a lot of different things occur. It's not just that you're weak. Other facets of your physicality change, including your balance.
Gotcha.
So if your muscles are getting weak, you have muscles, tendons, and ligaments in your feet. When they get weak and they start to collapse, now the proprioceptive nerves that are in your feet that signal your brain where you are in space and allow you to have balance
Mm-hmm.
do not work anywhere near as well.
Mm.
Quite often, the reason people fall is because two things: the proprioceptors aren't working, but also as your feet get weak, it affects your entire kinetic chain. If your feet are weak and they start to turn out, the next thing you know, there's a problem with your knee,
Mm-hmm.
there's a problem with your hip, there's a problem with your back, there's a problem with your neck. Some people actually begin to get headaches because their feet have gotten weak.
Mm.
Right?
That's interesting.
And so one of the doctors who's really big on helping people with muscle wasting, Dr. Attia,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
he recommends people wear shoes that simulate walking barefoot as much as possible.
Okay.
So he uses a shoe called Zero, but spelled with an X,
Okay.
X-E-R-O.
All right.
And they have a rounded front, and they really feel like you're gripping the earth when you walk.
Okay.
And it keeps your feet strong.
Interesting. So sometimes when you're thinking about feet, you don't realize that obviously they're the basis of your entire body, right?
Yeah.
I actually hear a lot of people saying, especially with back problems, it's the alignment. Sometimes as you get older, one leg or something is shorter by this much.
Yeah.
The whole thing can throw you off, and then your muscles will compensate, and some will be weaker and some will overwork.
Right.
So
that's the kinetic chain.
The kinetic
you want to
chain.
pay attention to it from all the way from the atlas all the way down to the bottom of your feet.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure that your feet are not going flat, not getting weak.
Yes.
Exercise them.
Yeah, I mean, acupuncturists say that the sole of the foot is one of the main avenues into the whole body.
Yeah.
When they look at it, they do their
the meridians.
needles, the meridians.
The meridians terminate there and affect every part of your body.
That's crazy. Yeah,
and
that's cool.
So do the nerves. There's a very special type of nerve in your feet that help give you balance and orientation, and you feel a lot more alert when your feet are healthy.
Interesting. Very good stuff.
Anyway, that's about it.
Yeah, I think that's a lot to say about the importance of preventing muscle wasting, and we're real excited about the show for the next couple weeks because we've got some new stuff coming down the pipe, some new products that we're going to be having to work on and get ready to come out with. We're going to be doing the show just on Thursdays at 11 a.m. for the next couple weeks, maybe a month and a half or so. That way we can get some other things together to surprise everyone with. But we will still be doing it every Thursday at 11. So catch the replays on YouTube, Boomers Forever Young YouTube. And then we have our Facebook. Please check out. That's Boomer Wellness Network on Facebook. It's called Boomer Wellness Network. And Live Forever Young Radio as well on Facebook as well. So you can catch any of the replays there. We do them live Thursday at 11. And it's been a pleasure.
Yeah. You can find everything if you go to boomerboost.com.
Yes, absolutely.
Find all those things Raleigh was talking about right there.
I just put that up on the screen. Visit boomerboost.com for more podcasts. Right now we have, over 100 at least.
Yep.
Over 100 podcasts. So there's plenty of content and information for you to binge on. And you can always give us a call at 1-800-861-4609 to talk to Gene the Dancing Machine, Jim Lee, happy birthday, Jim Lee.
Yep.
We love you, buddy. And if you ever get a call from Jim Lee, he's going to be making sure you're taking the barley right.
That's right.
That's what he does. So if you ever get a call and it says it's Jim Lee, talk to him. He's a good guy.
Take it.
You better talk to him.
He's got good information for you.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure, you guys. We'll see you on Thursday next week at 11 a.m.
Bye-bye.
Bye.